Section 1. The sound didn't belong there. Even now, when I think back to that summer afternoon, that's the first thing I remember. Not the movie I was watching, not the empty house, not even the attic itself. It was the sound, a slow, deliberate shuffling noise coming from somewhere above me. At first, I thought it was part of the movie. The television was playing loudly in the living room while sunlight poured through the windows, filling the house with that lazy warmth that only summer afternoons seem to have. It was the kind of day when nothing feels threatening. The kind of day when you leave doors unlocked and never think twice about strange sounds. I was home alone. That wasn't unusual. My parents were out running errands, and my brother wasn't home either. I had the entire house to myself and planned to spend the afternoon exactly how I always did, watching movies and enjoying the quiet. For a while, everything felt normal. Then I heard it. Shuffle. A faint scraping sound somewhere overhead. I paused for a moment and listened. Nothing. The movie continued playing. I shrugged it off and returned my attention to the screen. A few minutes later, it happened again. Shuffle. This time it was louder. Not loud enough to identify, but loud enough that I immediately muted the television. The room fell silent. I sat frozen on the couch. The silence stretched for several seconds. Then came another noise. Something moving. Something dragging. Something definitely coming from above the living room. A chill ran through me. Our living room had an unusually high ceiling. There wasn't a second floor above it. The only space overhead was the attic. I stared upward. The house suddenly felt different. Bigger, quieter, and somehow far less empty than it had a few minutes earlier. I listened carefully. For several moments, there was nothing. Then the sound returned. Slow, measured, as if something was shifting its weight on old wooden boards. The hairs on my arms stood up. I told myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe a squirrel, maybe a raccoon, maybe something had gotten trapped up there. But even as I tried convincing myself, another thought quietly settled into the back of my mind. What if it wasn't an animal? Section 2. I sat there listening for nearly a minute. The longer I listened, the less convinced I became that an animal was responsible. Animals scurry. They scratch. They move quickly. This sounded different. Whatever was up there seemed to move slowly, almost carefully, as if it was trying not to be heard. That thought alone was enough to make my stomach tighten. The attic was connected to my brother's bedroom through a small access door hidden inside his closet. If I wanted to figure out what was making the noise, that was the only way up. For several minutes, I argued with myself. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part desperately wanted an answer. Curiosity eventually won. I got up from the couch and walked through the hallway toward my brother's room. The farther I moved away from the television, the quieter the house became. Every footstep seemed unusually loud. Every creak of the floorboards sounded amplified. When I reached my brother's room, I stopped in the doorway. The room was empty. Still, silent. Nothing looked out of place. I crossed the room and opened his closet. The attic access panel was exactly where it always was. For a moment, I simply stared at it. The noises had stopped. That should have made me feel better. Instead, it somehow felt worse. The silence seemed unnatural. Like whatever had been moving up there knew I was standing below. I grabbed a flashlight from a shelf and climbed onto a small storage box to reach the attic door. My hand hesitated on the handle. I remember thinking how ridiculous I was being. It was probably a squirrel, maybe a bird, maybe nothing at all. I pulled the door open. A wave of warm, stale air drifted down immediately. The attic light had been broken for months, so darkness filled the entire space beyond the opening. The flashlight beam barely cut through it. Dust floated through the air. Boxes sat stacked against the walls. Plastic storage bags were scattered across sections of the floor. Everything looked exactly as I expected, and yet something felt wrong. I couldn't explain why. The darkness seemed deeper than it should have been. The silence heavier. I swallowed hard and pointed the flashlight farther inside. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. Slowly, I climbed through the opening and stepped into the attic. Section 3. The wooden floor groaned beneath my weight. The sound echoed through the cramped attic space. I froze immediately. The flashlight trembled slightly in my hand. Dust drifted through the beam as I scanned the darkness ahead. Nothing. Just old boxes. Plastic bags. Stored furniture. The same forgotten objects that had been sitting there for years. I took another cautious step. The air felt hot and suffocating. The summer heat had collected beneath the roof, turning the attic into an oven. Sweat formed on the back of my neck. I moved the flashlight from one corner to another. Still nothing. For a brief moment, I began feeling foolish. Maybe I really had hurt an animal. Maybe the noise had stopped because it escaped. Maybe I was standing in a dusty attic for absolutely no reason. Then I heard it. Creak. The sound came from somewhere deeper inside. Not beneath me. Not behind me. Ahead. I stopped breathing. The attic floor had made plenty of noises when I moved. This sound was different. This was a single board creaking under weight. Weight that wasn't mine. My pulse instantly accelerated. I stood perfectly still. The flashlight remained fixed on the darkness ahead. Several seconds passed. Then another creak. Slightly closer. The sound seemed to travel through the old wood like a warning. My mouth went dry. I suddenly became aware of how isolated I was. Nobody else was home. Nobody knew I was standing up there. And if someone, or something, was in the attic with me, I was the only person who could hear it. The silence that followed felt unbearable. I strained my ears. Then came a new sound. A faint rustling noise. Plastic. Something brushing against plastic. One of the storage bags somewhere ahead shifted slightly. I couldn't actually see it move, but I heard it. The unmistakable sound of contact. As though something had just bumped into it. The realization hit me all at once. Whatever was making the noises wasn't hidden in another part of the house. It wasn't on the roof. It wasn't outside. It was inside the attic. And it was somewhere in front of me. My entire body locked up. I remember gripping the flashlight so tightly my hand hurt. Every instinct screamed the same thing. Get out. Right now? Section 4. The fear arrived all at once. 1 second, I was trying to make sense of what I was hearing. The next, pure survival instinct had taken over. I didn't wait for another sound. I didn't call out. I didn't investigate. I turned around immediately. The flashlight beam bounced wildly across the attic walls as I hurried back toward the opening. Every step felt slower than it should have. Every creak beneath my feet sounded deafening. In my mind, something was moving behind me. I never looked back to confirm it. I didn't want to know. I reached the opening, practically dove through it, and landed awkwardly inside the closet. Without hesitation, I slammed the attic door shut. The loud bang echoed through the room. For a moment, I simply stood there staring at the closed panel. My heart hammered against my ribs. I listened. Nothing. No footsteps. No scratching. No movement. The attic remained silent. But that silence no longer comforted me. If anything, it made me more nervous. I backed away from the closet and left the room as quickly as possible. Once I reached the living room, I grabbed my phone and called my parents. The moment they answered, I started explaining everything. The sounds, the attic, the creaking boards, the plastic bag, the feeling that something had been up there with me. I expected them to tell me I was imagining things. Instead, they told me to stay downstairs and wait for them to come home. That wait felt endless. Every noise inside the house caught my attention. The refrigerator turning on, the air conditioning cycling, the house settling. Everything sounded suspicious. I kept glancing toward the hallway leading to my brother's room. Part of me expected to see the attic door open by itself. Part of me expected someone to come walking out. Nothing happened. Eventually, my parents arrived home. Relief washed over me the second I heard their car pull into the driveway. For the first time since entering the attic, I felt safe. Then my dad grabbed a flashlight and headed upstairs. And suddenly, all those fears came rushing back. Section 5. I followed my parents upstairs but stopped outside my brother's room. I had no intention of going back into that attic. My dad, however, wasn't nearly as concerned. Armed with a flashlight and a healthy amount of confidence, he opened the closet and climbed through the access door. The attic door closed behind him, and then I waited. The next few minutes felt far longer than they actually were. I stood in the hallway listening. Every tiny sound made me tense. Occasionally, I heard floorboards creak above. Sometimes I heard boxes being moved. Then silence. I kept expecting him to suddenly call out. Maybe he'd found an animal. Maybe he'd found evidence that someone had been up there. Maybe he'd discover exactly what had made those noises. Instead, after what felt like forever, he climbed back down. His expression was calm, almost confused. "There's nothing up there," he said. I remember staring at him in disbelief. Nothing? That didn't make sense. I knew what I'd heard. The creaking floorboards had been real. The plastic bag brushing against something had been real. The feeling that I wasn't alone up there had been very real. But according to my dad, everything looked normal. No animals. No broken windows. No signs of anyone entering. Nothing disturbed. Nothing unusual. The attic appeared completely empty. That should have been the end of it. And technically it was. No one ever found an explanation. The noises never led to a discovery. No hidden intruder was uncovered. No trapped animal was located. Life simply moved on. Yet even now, years later, that afternoon remains one of the strangest experiences I've ever had. Because I know exactly what I heard. I know those floorboards creaked after I stopped moving. I know something brushed against one of those plastic bags. And I know the feeling that settled over me in that attic wasn't imagination. Maybe there was a simple explanation that we never found. Maybe something was hiding well enough to avoid detection. Or maybe the answer disappeared before anyone else arrived. Whatever the truth was, one thing has always stayed with me. The attic access wasn't connected to my room. It was connected to my brother's. And honestly, after that day, I was extremely grateful for that fact.